The Science of Life and Death for Non-Doctors is written by Dr. Srinivasulu Kalwa, MS Ortho from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Introduction. Life begins at birth and ends at death for all beings, including the human beings. Life is the absence of death and death is the absence of life. Life is to begin at birth, is followed by growth and ends at death, which are the undisputed facts of life in the world accepted by all from times immemorial. The process of life and death are not clearly and conclusively understood either by the intellectuals, by the practitioners of religion and philosophy, or by the present day practicing medical doctors, although they are seen regularly by all the peoples of the world. Human race can be continued only by progeny through heterosexual marriages. The human race becomes extinct from the planet Earth if all the heterosexual marriages are completely replaced by the same-sex marriages all over the world. Every person born is destined to die on a day unknown to the human beings within 100 years or so, with the exception of a few human beings living beyond 100 years. It is said that birth is the cause of death. Every human being can know the date of birth, but the date of death cannot be exactly predicted, although astrologers have tried without complete success. In the Indian mythology of Vedas, Smritis, Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc., it is mentioned that humans lived for thousands of years during the time of Krita Yuga and Treta Yuga. But in Dwapara Yuga, Bhishma, the son of King Santana, in Mahabharata, was said to have lived for 257 years. Some others say 170 years, while Lord Krishna was said to have lived for 125 years. In Kali Yuga, Saint Kabir Das was said to have lived for 120 years. Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, the first Governor General of Independent India, lived for 94 years. Mokshagundam Vishweswaraya, the famous engineer, was born in 1861 and died in 1962 and aged about 101 years. He was very active and advised the then Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, to construct the Krishna Rajasagar Dam across the river Kaveri and creation of Usman Sagar at Gandipeta and Himayat Sagar, two water reservoirs to prevent floods of Musi River affecting the city of Hyderabad. Morarji Desai, the late Prime Minister of India, also lived for about 99 years and worked as Prime Minister of India above the age of 80 years, which is recent history. Presently, Baba Sivananda Yogi, who is awarded Padma Shri National Award in the year 2022 by Government of India, is alive, aged about 126 years, as per his Aadhaar identity card, presently living in the holy city of Varanasi of state of Uttar Pradesh. Of the hundreds of the doctors the author know personally, in my 73 years of life and more than 50 years of professional life, I have known only two senior doctors who lived up to 99 years. They are Dr. Pinakapani, Professor of Medicine and Medical Superintendent of Government General Hospital, Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh State in India, and Dr. Ramesh Pai, Professor of Surgery and Director of Medical Services of Undivided Andhra Pradesh State in India. My childhood teacher and Advaita philosopher by name, respected Vedantam Lakshmaya, who lived for 75 years and died suddenly in a day without being bedridden in Pradhattur town of Kadapa district of Andhra Pradesh State. Respected lecturer in Telugu language and Advaita philosopher by name, Yellamraju Srinivas Rao, who worked in SCNR Arts and Science College, Pradhattur town of Kadapa district, Andhra Pradesh State, where the author studied, lived for 88 years. It is a common knowledge of us that many people lived 100 years and beyond. The author has personally seen many persons of both sexes living beyond 100 years in the countries of Sri Lanka, Saudi Arabia, India and Mauritius. The individual names are not mentioned to save space. Death and its definition. People know more about life and little about death. The dead person cannot return to the world after death to tell about the details about the process of death and what happens during and after death. The author has given some details about death to the best of his knowledge, which can be subjected to future research to ascertain the truth about death. The author in his article entitled The Diagnosis and Declaration of Death has described in detail how to confirm death and certify death for medical doctors. In this article, it is concluded that the death is painless due to absolute unconsciousness, which is called technically as coma. Briefly, the definition of death is the absence of life, and the absence of death is life. To state more accurately for non-doctors, the presence of consciousness and breathing is life, and absence of consciousness and breathing is death. This principle is very important for the self-assessment of life by oneself at any point of time, like after injuries due to the accidents or in old age. Anyone living above alone can assess the presence of life. If one can consciously or voluntarily or willfully attempts breathing, he is alive. This is clearly found by the author and is the most important point of this book for the non-doctors. The author named this test as voluntary breathing test. The scientific basis is the nerve supply of the lungs. Both the lungs, right and left, have dual nerve supply. That means two types of nerves, phrenic and vagus nerves, control the function of lungs. The right and left phrenic nerves come from the spinal cord of the neck and supply the lungs. All the intercostal muscles of the chest wall and the diaphragm, which is a dome-shaped muscle that separates the cavities of the chest and the abdomen. These phrenic nerves belong to the nervous system called somatic or voluntary nervous system. These phrenic nerves are responsible for voluntary breathing. As long as these phrenic nerves are not completely damaged, anyone can breathe voluntarily during waking period. Because of this voluntary breathing, there exists a variety of breathing types called pranayamas practiced in yoga. The other type of nerves are called the vagus nerves, right and left, which come from brain and belong to the autonomic or involuntary system. These vagus nerves supply both the lungs and heart and control their functioning. These vagus nerves control the breathing during sleep and in waking period when one does not breathe voluntarily. The author made out the difference in the function between phrenic nerves and vagus nerves. In summary, lungs have voluntary control by phrenic nerves and involuntary control by vagus nerves. In contrast, the heart is supplied by the vagus nerves only, that is involuntary or autonomic nervous system. Hence, the control of heart function is entirely involuntary. That means there is no voluntary control of heart as lungs. This fact that heart beating, which is the most important function for maintenance life, is totally out of human control. The beating of heart and the heart rate can be increased by voluntary physical activities and involuntary mental disturbances. But the heartbeat cannot be revived after death with all the available modern medical facilities and by all the expert teams of doctors of the world. Hence, all died in the past invariably. There are differences in reasoning of death in Hindu religion and the modern allopathic system of medical sciences of the present day world. The reason of Hindu religion is that the presence of life is due to a vital abstract energy or force named as soul in English or Atma in Sanskrit language, which is responsible for all the activities of the bodily organs, including the most important activities of breathing and consciousness or awareness. Accordingly, when soul or Atma leaves the human body, all the actions of the life disappear, resulting in death. The above concept of Hindu religion of the soul leaving the body and resulting in death is not accepted by the modern allopathic system of medical sciences in the present day world, which considers the death as a multi-organ failure. To prove the concept of soul, further research is required. In modern medical sciences, the complete loss of consciousness is called as coma. Consciousness is also lost temporarily during sleep and general anesthesia, where consciousness and pain are removed using certain drugs. The unconscious person in coma continues to breathe until death, but when breathing stops completely, there is complete loss of consciousness. With the absence of breathing and consciousness, all other organs fail to function, resulting in the death of the person. The vital organs of human body are brain, heart, 2 lungs, liver, and 2 kidneys. All these organs are collectively responsible for the presence of life. Hence, death is presently called as multi-organ failure. That means failure of function of vital organs followed by all other organs of human body. The author has certified deaths of scores of people as per the modern medicine in his professional life of 50 years. At birth, the consciousness of the baby appears with a cry, and this consciousness is lost at the time of death. Similarly, the breathing starts at birth and stops at death. Before birth, the live baby is with unmanifested consciousness and without detectable respiration. The baby becomes conscious and breathes after birth due to the differences in the conditions of mother's womb and the external atmosphere of the world. This mechanism is not clearly understood either by science or by religion. The baby grows into an adult person after about 20 years, and old age starts from 60 to 70 years and lasts until death. The consciousness and breathing gained at birth are lost, finally resulting in death. After the death, the dead body starts decaying spontaneously with offensive, nauseating, and unbearable smell, forcing the people around the dead body either to bury or burn the dead body as early as possible. Nowadays, the dead body can be prevented from decay by refrigeration for several days until the arrival of sons and daughters from abroad. Future research is required as to how and why the decay of dead body starts spontaneously. The decay of putrefaction is the absolute evidence of death by which all the non-doctors can confirm death without any doubt. To avoid refrigeration of the dead body, nowadays, euthanasia or a planned death is practiced in some countries where it is legal. The kith and kin of the sick person living in different countries gather in the country where euthanasia is legal. The breathing and heart beating are stopped using drugs by expert doctors who declare death and certify it. In India, euthanasia has to be permitted by competent court. The author prefers natural death to euthanasia death. The natural death is defined below. Recently, organ donations from young accident victims and transplantation to others requiring organs has become a multi-billion-dollar medical business. Some greedy doctors violate the relevant acts and rules of organ donation and transplantation and declare death before the actual natural death, that is the spontaneous cessation of breathing and heart beat with absolute loss of consciousness. This is unethical and illegal, which cannot be prevented unless all involved persons are 100% honest. Today, the world is divided about euthanasia, organ donation and transplantation, and fetal death by induced abortion. A normal delivery is safer than induced abortion, as the parents get a child free of cost who is worth not less than $50,000, the minimum cost of test tube baby anywhere in the world. In author's opinion, it is better to prevent conception as a family planning measure than to induce an abortion after conception for any reason. In the author's experience, a few doctors couple remained childless for life after the induction of abortion of first pregnancy for their personal reasons. So far, birth, life, and death are briefly covered for the non-doctors. Now, the cause of death as concerned for non-doctors are given below. The cause of death are different in children, adults, and old people. They differ from country to country and also different in different areas within a country. Injuries due to any cause, that is, accidents, falls, burns, knives, gunshots, etc., are the commonest causes in any age group or country of the world. Infections by bacteria or viruses like tuberculosis, malaria, pneumonia, etc., are the common causes in children and low-income groups. The common causes in the elderly and middle-aged and high-income groups are heart disease, that is the ischemic heart disease or heart attack or coronary artery disease, long-standing lung disease called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, brain disease, brain attack or stroke, sugar disease called diabetes, raised blood pressure called hypertension, hanging by neck, suicidal, homicidal or judicial, pollution-related diseases and cancers. Some other causes are drowning, snake bites, heavy metal poisoning, food poisoning, smoking, consumption of all forms of tobacco products or alcohol and other intoxicating drugs or substances, etc. The process of death for non-doctors is already mentioned in the preceding pages. A few more details of the process of death are given below. The process of death is described separately under the headings of 1. Sudden death and 2. Gradual death. In sudden death, it is also called instant death. The person suddenly becomes unconscious and the respiration stops. The heart and lungs act as one unit. Hence, if heart stops beating due to heart disease, the lungs also stop functioning and vice versa. The unconsciousness called coma is confirmed as the person fails to answer any questions about his or her name or address, etc. The non-doctor can confirm the absence of breathing by absence of movement of chest and the cotton test. In this test, a thin cotton wool is placed in front of the nostrils of the dead person, and absence of any movements of cotton wool confirms the absence of breathing. Just before death, the breathing becomes irregular, slow or rapid, shallow or deep. Sometimes the last respiration may be one deep inspiration followed by long and loud expiration, which is described as the person breathed is lost. The non-doctors can also observe in a dead person that all the four limbs are cold without any movements, and when they are lifted up and allowed to fall, they suddenly drop down with a thud sound, being lifeless, which is different in a living person. The cause of sudden death or mental shock, called a neurogenic shock, after hearing fatal news of dearest ones, severe mutilating injuries due to accidents, etc. Nowadays, the commonest cause of sudden or instant death is a severe heart attack called massive myocardial infarction due to ischemic heart disease or coronary heart disease, and the person dies in a few minutes, say about 5 minutes. Such death also happens in sleep, and the person is found dead in the morning. These victims of sudden death are declared by doctors as brought dead cases when brought to hospital for treatment. No treatment is given to all the brought dead persons. It is observed by the author that some specialist doctors working in their intensive care units of their specialties in the biggest hospitals of the world have died suddenly due to massive heart attacks, and their lives could not be saved with all the latest modern facilities available to revive the function of heart and lungs. The author names this massive heart attack as fatal heart disease, invariably resulting in death even after best treatment. These cases are in minority. In majority of cases, the heart attacks are not fatal and persons do not die suddenly, and they are brought alive to the hospital, and with the treatment they live for days, weeks, months, years depending on the severity of heart disease. The process of gradual death is described as follows. The cause of gradual death are long-standing disease of all the organs of the body, including those of vital organs like brain, heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys. The long-standing diseases are also called in medical sciences as chronic diseases. That means these diseases run for months to years with or without treatment. The non-doctors need not know the names of these long-standing chronic diseases. Briefly, the feeling of well-being always indicates good health. As long as a person feels normal with the abilities of doing works without feeling weakness, breathlessness, or fever, or any abnormal feelings, the person is considered as healthy up to 60 or 70 years of age when old age sets in. Hence, most persons are retired from their jobs before 60 or 70 years except for political jobs. The main reason is decreasing physical and mental performance with progressive loss of memory. This is due to old age related relentless degeneration or wasting of all organs of body. This degeneration of all parts of the body due to old age is called senile degeneration, which is relentlessly progressive, leading to reduced efficiency in the functional abilities or performance of all organs or parts of body. That means the strength in all four limbs is reduced. The functions of sensory organs like the vision of the eyes, the hearing by ears, the smell by the nose, and the taste by tongue, and the reproductive function are reduced as compared to the old age before 60 years of age. The speed of thinking, the speed of and force of speech, and the efficiency of mental understanding are reduced in old age after 60 to 70 years. The best way to delay the effects of old age stated above is to keep oneself physically and mentally active and fruitfully participating in free social service. One can always keep physically busy by doing gardening, etc., and mentally active by reading the books of all religions and philosophies of the world, or even writing books about subjects which were not written by our ancestors and which will be useful for the future generations. This author accordingly has written this book. As such book is not available in the present day world. In the author's opinion, one can live 100 years of healthy and active life by honest living without stress and harming others, taking good food, air, water, having 8 hours sleep a day, having one man, one woman physical relations, and doing exercise regularly. Best examples are Mokshabundam Visvesvaraya, 101 years, engineer, and Morarji Desai, 99 years, who worked as a former Prime Minister of India above 80 years of age and lived active and healthy life until death, which were already stated in detail in the preceding pages. Role of destiny in the death of an individual. According to the author, destiny or fate is what happens in spite of best efforts to avoid an event or a happening in life. The best example is the death. Religions, particularly Hindu religion, believes that every individual's age is predetermined from birth to death by the Almighty God, and one is destined to die in spite of one's best efforts to live at least 100 years. Very few doctors have lived up to 100 years during the 73 years of author's life. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India, believed and expected to live 100 years. He fasted unto death several times, and every time the British rulers pre-arranged his sandalwood locks of good smell for his funeral, which were used for the funeral of his wife, but never died during fasting. But unfortunately, he died at the age of 70 years suddenly when he was shot dead. Is this because of his destiny to die at the age of 78 years in spite of his best efforts to live 100 years? Respected Poti Sriramulu was born on 16 March 1901, started fasting unto death on 19 October 1952 and died on 50th day of fasting on 15 December 1952 at 11:20 p.m. IST. He fasted for the goal of formation of separate state for Andhra people from the combined state of then Madras state on 1952, 4 days after his death. Government of India announced the formation of Andhra state on 1st November 1956. Andhra Pradesh state was officially formed. Unfortunately, Sri Poti Sriramulu was sacrificed his life fasting for 58 days for the formation of separate state of Andhra people was forgotten by all. He was never given any award posthumously like Andhra Ratna or Bharat Ratna award till today. Who cares? The author wrote to a Vice President of India to get an award to Sri Poti Sriramulu, but there is no action till today. What a state of affairs in independent India. He is not alive to pursue for an award. May God bless him with tears in the eyes of the authors of the book. The formation of the first state of Andhra Pradesh cannot be compared with that of Telangana or any other state. Everyone should do research to find out the time of one's death. So far, all fail to know their time of death. In the author's humble opinion, if one believes in the concept of destiny or one can live peacefully without the fear of death, and the time of death is predetermined by destiny, and one can live peaceful life in spite of unavoidable sufferings from old age and diseases. There is a lot of optimism in Hindu religion and philosophy. The following exemplifies the same. One child by name Markandeya was destined to die at the age of 12 years. Having known this fact from his father, he praised Lord Shiva, the Almighty God, who controls the junior god of death. He did not die. On the other hand, he got a boon from Lord Shiva that he will not die, but lives forever and becomes immortal. Some believe that he is alive even today. This is in Markandeya Purana of Hindu mythology. No doubt, this is not modern science. Surprisingly, science starts with assumption, followed by experiments, observations, and final inference leading to conclusions. On these lines, there is a lot of scope for future research to prevent the relentless linear degeneration of old age, leading to gradual and complete failure of all organs of the body, resulting in the death of the individual, which is the irreversible end of life. Everyone gets the opportunity to study the process of death, invariably at the time of death, and will come to know what happens during and after death. May Almighty bless all the mortals. This is the end of the book.